Hello and welcome to the third and most likely last episode of Full Court Press. My name is Chris Murphy, and to my right is Colton Poole, the pride of Belfield, North Dakota.
Hello!
And we are former sports reporters that are here to talk about sports because that's all we're good for. Colton, okay, we're gonna do an entire football episode because all football games are on Wednesday, so we have to get this out now. So Colton, on the North Dakota side, what do you feel from last week was the biggest win?
Specifically in Fargo, it'd have to be Fargo South beating Fargo Davies 26-22. Tanner DuBois, a huge game for him, the quarterback, 22 of 40 for 327 yards and 2 touchdowns. And obviously this now sets up a really big matchup for South, but we'll get into that a little bit later. It's a really close game considering that, Davies wasn't necessarily favored going into this season, but they've really made a name for themselves and locked up the number 4 seed in the Class 3A playoffs, and will play Bismarck Century at Century in the playoffs. Davies, Johnson Jones carried the ball 22 times for 123 yards and a touchdown. And, a couple of other games here. West Fargo beat Grand Forks Central 34-0. And with South beating Davies, they locked up the number 1 seed in the playoffs.
Is anybody touching West Fargo?
Well, we did ask this last week, and the answer still has to be no, considering that, West Fargo beat South, which is probably, and Cheyenne, really handily, and those are the 2 best teams out of the East. And Cheyenne beat Century, which is the number 1 seed out of the West. So, but like we've said before, said this before the last 2 years, but they've lost in the semifinals to Century the previous 2 seasons. So you'd think West Fargo is the favorite, but you never know.
That's why we play the games.
Right. Thanks, Murphy. And Cheyenne also beat Grand Forks Red River 41-15 to set up what is the matchup of the week in Class 3A playoffs, and I'll be covering this game on Wednesday. Fargo South at Cheyenne. This is for the number 2 seed in the Class 3A playoffs. They're both set up where, whoever wins gets a home playoff game, which is huge in North Dakota playoffs, considering that you're probably going to a Bismarck team or Minot if you lose.
That is a hike.
Right. So, and this has really been a great matchup in the past. Last year, it was a crazy game. Cheyenne won, I believe it was 8-7, and Cheyenne's only touchdown
came... Is that a baseball game?
Cheyenne's only touchdown came on a Hayden Reynolds touchdown pass, and it was a running back touchdown pass, and they went for a 2-point conversion and got it, and so they won 8-7. For Cheyenne, Jason Gulrap is leading the EDC with 945 yards on 182 carries and 13 touchdowns. And DuBois is leading South with 1,673 yards and 16 touchdowns through the air and 10 interceptions. So it's kind of 2 different teams you're looking at. One that really runs the ball quite a lot. Cheyenne has run the ball 363 times to South's 221. It's going to be a really interesting matchup between those 2 teams, considering how different they are and how close this game has been and how important this game is at the end of the season now. For other North Dakota games, Fargo Shanley clinched the number 1 seed in the playoffs with a win over Wahpeton. They've got the number 1 seed locked up and have a bye week now in the playoffs, and now they have an automatic bid into the state semifinals, which will be on November 4th. And then elsewhere, Hillsborough Central Valley, they beat Fargo Oak Grove 30-6 last Friday, and now they are first in the QRF in North Dakota Class 1A. They've got the Region 1's number 1 seed and will play West Hope Newburgh Glenburn on Saturday, October 21st in the first round of the playoffs. Really impressive. Hillsborough's on an 8-game winning streak, and in the past 2 games, Oak Grove's Ben Hogarth and Clayton Gurnich from
Edgeley, Allendale, Colton.
There you go. Those 2 have over 7,000 career yards, and Hillsborough has held them to a combined 195 yards over the past 2 weeks. So, a lot going on in North Dakota football. A lot of fun, especially here at the end of the season. That's what you like to see is these close, competitive, and important games. And now, Murphy, why don't you tell me a little bit about Minnesota football and what's going on there? I imagine it's a lot of the same there.
Don't tell me what to do, first of all. And second of all, is it my turn yet?
Yes.
Okay, so obviously the first one off the bat is Holly going into Barnesville and beating them. And there was number 4 Holly versus number 2 Barnesville. And the state, if they hadn't already been, got introduced to quarterback Jacob Vetter. He threw for 306 yards and 2 touchdowns. Which puts him up to 1,191 yards passing and 13 touchdowns. He did throw his first interception of the year, but we'll let that go. So he goes into Barnesville.
Wait, he threw his first interception?
Interception of the season against Barnesville.
That's efficient.
Yeah, 13 touchdowns and one. Yeah, I'm going to get to why he's even scarier because he's only a junior.
Wow.
He's only a junior, and so he goes into Barnesville, a place where the Trojans have won 38 straight regular season games and 29 total straight games in Barnesville. And he has his best passing game, and senior running back Donnie Logreen has his best rushing game, most rushing yards. I don't know if you want to call it his best. He's been taken out of games in the third quarter with 178 yards and 4 touchdowns. And so, yeah, it was as advertised, and yeah, Holly won, and so we'll see you two both in November. They will end up playing for the section championship. I could almost guarantee it, and that is why.
That a guarantee?
Yes, yeah,
Wow.
I would guarantee that one. Those two,
lock it up.
Just no one's coming near them. Who's gonna win that game? I have no idea. I would have guessed Barnesville was gonna win this game. It was at home. Barnesville's healthy-ish. They have their star running back, Brady Tweeten, and yeah, Holly just goes in there and beats him. Jacob Vetter, welcome to Minnesota football. He started last year as a sophomore. He's good. He's good. He's big, and he can throw.
In what ways has he gotten better since he was a sophomore last year, you think?
I don't know. I think just Holly as a whole grew. Because, they lost a ton of seniors a couple years ago when they lost Ben Ellefson and Logan Ulm and, I can't think. Jordan Harms and a bunch of guys. So they had a whole giant senior class that they had to rebuild. And Jacob Vetter was part of it, and so was Donnie Logreen. And now those guys have grown, and you got a junior and a senior running back that have been playing, running back quarterback combination that have been playing together for a long time. So, yeah, Holly's good, and they showed it there. My next topic would be Class 9-man Section 6. I have it written down as Class 9-man Section 6 is insane, and I'm going to explain why. So Norman County East, Ulen Hitterdal, Nevis, and Rothsay are all 6-1. Waubun was 2 points away from being 6-1, so Waubun is 5-2. The QRFs have Norman County East, Ulen Hitterdal at 10, Nevis at 11, Rothsay at 12, Waubun at 17. If Waubun beat Stephen Argyle, which they lost to by 2, they'd also be 6-1. So this is insane. This is all going to come down to the last week as to who's the top seed there. I have no idea how that's going to go. It's crazy. And then I'd like to jump from 6A 9-man to 6A, where Otter Tail Central and Ada Borb Norman County West are basically destined to meet up in the Section 6A title game. And the thing about those two teams is, yeah, they can put up points, but OTC's given up 52 points in 7 games. Ada Borb Norman County West has given up 29 points in 7 games. So combined, if you combine both of them in 14 games, those two defenses are averaging 5.79 points against, which is just crazy. So those two are going to meet. You can basically book that one. And speaking of booking, you can most likely book that Monoman's going to win another 8A section title. So that'll be that. Then we move on to 3, Class 3A, Section 8. Dilworth, Glendon, Felton. Huge win over Perham behind 229 yards and 2 touchdowns from Stephen Taves. So in 8 AAA, you have Perham has beaten Pequot Lakes, who has beaten DGF, who has beaten Perham. So the section is just completely up for grabs. Right now, I think in order of QRF, they have Perham, DGF, Pequot Lakes. But in this final game on Wednesday, anything can turn with a win or a loss by any of the teams. In 4A, Fergus moved to 6-1. Fergus Falls moved to 6-1, but they'll have to get through a Corey if they want to go to state. And then finally, the Spuds in 5A lost a big one to Brainerd because that one basically gives Brainerd the 1 seed, which gives them home throughout the section championship and gives them a first-round bye. So Spuds will have to play. Spuds are playing Alexandria tomorrow, Wednesday, and the winner basically gets the 2 seed. 2 or 3 seeds basically the same. You're going to host a home playoff game to start, and that's that. So that's where we're at now in good old football.
Is this as unpredictable of football, late in the season as you can remember?
Yes. Yeah. Now that I think about it, as far as I can remember. Well, the thing is, Section 8AA is always insane. When you have Breckenridge, Frazee, Holly, and Barnesville, you just never know where that one's going to go. Moorhead has always kind of been the top seed. They're used to being the top seed and getting a first round bye, so that's a little weird for them. Although last year they weren't, but going into this year they were expected to be. But Brainerd just came out and just ran the ball down their throat. The Spuds' front line, they just couldn't stop them. So that should be scary if you're a Spud fan. If the idea is that you're going to have to meet Brainerd in the section championship.
And it sounds like every level is unpredictable. Whereas North Dakota, it's kind of predictable. You have your Fargo Shanley at the top of the 2A, West Fargo top of 3A. But really interesting that all these teams are beating each other and really being, like you say, kind of unpredictable.
Well, it's a good point because, you're right. I mean, it is crazy. First of all, Section 6 Class 9 man has just been wobbins every year for the last bunch of years, it seems like. But this year, all these other teams have emerged. And then in 6A, Ada Borup Norman County West is a new co-op, and Ada Borup used to be a 9-man, and Otter Tail Central used to be in AA. They both got moved, Otter Tail down, Ada Borup up, and now they're in this section together, and now they're both doing well, adjusting to it. And then DGF has kind of ran Section Class 3A, Section 8. They've ran that for the last bunch of years, but Perham has emerged this year. And then Pequot Lakes, who has lost to DGF in the section championship the last 4 years, I believe, finally beat them this year in the regular season. They never faced each other in the regular season. They always faced each other in the section championship the last bunch of years. So, it's basically up for grabs. So, to wrap that up, I have no idea who's going to win anything. So, there you go.
Thanks for the insight.
Yep, that's what I'm here for.
All right. I think that about wraps it up for local football. Thanks for listening. This has been Full Court Press with sports reporter Colton Poole, myself, and Chris Murphy. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.